We are indeed facing a unprecedented situation, which is of the nature of a violent crisis, a battle at once inner and outer. There is an invasion of the dark, hostile elements, not just inimical to man's life, but to his progress, his upward movement. And this invasion is dual. At once, it is invading the physical space, but also, and equally importantly, it is invading the psychological space of men. Fear and panic and vain excitement and agitation seems to be gripping mankind. And it is here that we must play a double role, a battle outside and a battle within. The body has to be fortified, not just with vitamins and outer nourishments, but as much with inner nourishment. As the mother says that the body is protected not just by the skin, not just by the immune system, but there is an outer line of defense, a subtle envelope, as it were, formed partly of the physical elements, which means nourishment, the physical condition like sleep, and partly by the psychological state, a state of peace, quietude, cheerfulness, healthy optimism. And these constitute the first line of defense which nature has provided. So it's important that while we keep nourishing the body with fluids and food and water and most important, enough rest, it's equally important that we keep our psychological state healthy and full of optimism. Every wave, every storm, every night presages a new dawn. And surely, when this storm is cleared, as it must and it will, there will be the light of a new day, a new dawn, when man will wake up to a new possibility, a possibility of the body and a possibility of the soul. But right now, there is the moment of darkness. What should be our state during such a moment? We see beautifully described in one of the prayers of the mother. This prayer is dated August 31st, 1914, when the vital forces had descended upon earth during the first great war, and it continued this conflict, which was a conflict and battle of the egos, gigantic egos, and it ended in a battle which was because of the throwing out of all these dark, impure elements from within man's consciousness, and took the form of the worst pandemic that man had ever experienced, mankind has ever experienced, in the form of the Spanish flu, which killed many more people than the First World War did. So, how did the mother look at it, and what is her message to all of us? Is the message that we must take into our heart. In this formidable disorder and terrible destruction can be seen a great working, a necessary toil preparing the earth for a new sowing, which will rise in marvelous spikes of grain and give to the world the shining harvest of a new race. So, as we know, the world is being prepared, it is being made ready for the new race. And all this tilling of the soil of human nature, of the physical constitution of man, of our psychological tendencies, are being right now undergoing a kind of upturning of the soil so that it can be ready to bear the seeds of the new race which are already within it. And through all this anguish, through all this torment, through all this struggle, eventually it may heat up the grain inside so that it bursts forth into a new harvest. The vision is clear and precise. There is no doubt about it that the greatest darkness prepare for the greatest dawns. The plan of thy divine law so plainly traced that peace has come back and installed itself as a sovereign in the hearts of the workers. So we have to be at this moment like a divine worker, a divine warrior who is battling not just outside, but also within. Each person at this moment, not just the doctors and the health workers, the sisters, and the countless many hands who are tending the sick and caring for the elderly, not just they, but every person who at this point of time is keeping alive in his heart the flame of hope, who is increasing through a constant, ceaseless sacrifice and prayer, the fire of faith, of aspiration for the new dawn. Every person who is battling pessimism, who is not allowing any thought of darkness, who is not allowing any kind of pessimism, as Mother said, pessimism is the tail of the devil, who is not allowing all these kind of fears to invade the mind and instead responding with trust in the grace that behind all this, including even behind the darkest of the most hostile forces, there stands ultimately some divine truth which is working itself through this passage, through this moment. That is why we see, even in death and destruction, the face of the Divine Mother as Kali. And so we have to see that face and be prepared. There are no more doubts and hesitations, no longer any anguish or impatience. We have to be patient. After all, it's a preparation for a new world. It cannot be done in a trice. They came, they showed us the sunlit path, which is still there and will always be there for man. But is man ready? So we see that man is being made ready through all this. There is only the grand straight line of the work eternally accomplishing itself in spite of all, against all, despite all contrary appearances and illusory detours. So we should not be distracted into all that is happening around us. We should not be caught up in the whirlwind of excitement and agitation, or allow our consciousness to sink into abysses of depression and fear. There is no cause for that for a child of the mother. For those who are turned to the divine in whatever way, regardless of their religion or regardless of their beliefs and non beliefs, even a moment of faith in whatever form of the divinity within is enough to carry us through. And that we must keep alive. These physical personalities, moments unseizable in the infinite becoming, know that they will have made humanity take one further step, infallibly and without care for the inevitable results. Whatever be the apparent momentary consequences. So, this is what we should be careful about. These numbers and figures flashing on the screen and all the excitement that makes for news. We have to look beyond it. We have to look behind it. We have to look for the coming of the new dawn. As Sri Aurobindo said, even if I knew that the whole world were to be smashed, I would look beyond the smash to the new creation. Whatever be the apparent momentary consequences, they unite themselves with thee, O Master Eternal. They unite themselves with thee, O Mother Universal. And in this double identity with that which is beyond and that which is all the manifestation, they taste the infinite joy of the perfect certitude. And the reason for this certitude, the certitude of the divine victory, is the divine presence, the divine Mother herself, who is taken up the task of remolding and transforming this earth. Peace, peace in all the world. War is an appearance. Turmoil is an illusion. We may add, illness is an illusion. It looks so real, so much it hits the eye. But we can look at it simply as a force of disorder which is manifesting through some chink in our armor, through some disharmony in our being, through some insincerity. And the only way for us is to accelerate the sadhana, to grow more and more in sincerity, to grow this flame of aspiration even further, to increase this faith within our hearts even more and make it even more integral, so that we can cross through this difficult period, which is come over humanity and earth. Peace is there, immutable peace. Mother, sweet mother, who I am, thou art at once the destroyer and the builder. We have to look at all this with the eye of oneness. To see things in black and white as dark and bright is still an illusion. Maybe the last illusion, it is still duality. We have to see, even in all this destruction, the great plan of the World Mother, the dance of Kali, preparing for the dance of Krishna and Radha. The whole universe lives in thy breast with all its life, innumerable, and thou livest in thy immensity in the least of its atoms. We have to invoke her presence, meditate as if she is surrounding the whole world, because this is the reality. She is carrying the whole world in her arms, in her breast, and in each of its elements, it is she who is present. And this is the double meditation that we must follow, that she is carrying the whole world in her arms, and in each of its elements, she is present. And the aspiration of thy infinitude turns towards that which is not manifested, to cry to it for a manifestation ever more complete and more perfect. And we must invoke the divine of tomorrow, as she says when she invoked the divine through Om Namo Bhagavate. She said, when I say Bhagavate, it is the divine of tomorrow. The sooner the new creation is established in the hearts and minds and thoughts and will of man, the sooner it spreads, the faster we'll come out of this and all other future dangers. So we have to do a reverse contagion. On one side, there is the contagion of illness, of disorder, of confusion, of destruction, of death, of disease, of fear, of agitation. And we have to replace it with the contagion of peace, of hope, of optimism, the contagion of the new creation, of the new consciousness, the contagion of the new idea waiting for the dawn, the contagion of prayer, the contagion of self-giving, and the contagion of complete and absolute surrender in front of the grace, and invoking the grace more and more in our lives. All is in one time, in a triple and clairvoyant total consciousness, the individual, the universal, the infinite.